So kind of helping me to purify my own self by reiterating the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. Because definitely the audience are benefited, but the first person who is benefited when something like Gita or Bhagavad is recited is the speaker. In Bhagavatam, it is said the three people are benefited whenever Bhagavatam is recited. One, the speaker himself. Secondly, the audience, and third, second the person who's asking the questions, and third, the other audience who are overhearing the conversation. In this way, these three are the ones who derive benefit out of such a conversation. And here we are today, wherein we are going to discuss about Bhagavad Gita. So before we begin with anything, uh, please join me to offer some prayers to Lord Krishna, to Srimati Radharani, and to all the spiritual masters who fall in the disciplic succession. We seek their blessings to be able to understand this wonderful transcendental knowledge that is being disseminated through this disciplic succession. And we seek their mercy, we seek their blessings, and mm, without which it is definitely impossible for people like us to understand Bhagavad Gita in this age. So that's why we seek out their blessings. And in that mood, we'll recite some prayers, even though you may not be able to understand, but this is the mode behind it. So we can all fold our hands and simply listen on to the prayers that I am going to recite. Okay? ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोन् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं त्वं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादि पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Thank you for your attentiveness. And now we'll begin with our session on Bhagavad Gita. So basically, as you must have heard about, we will be basically discussing about the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita, 5 subject matters which are majorly discussed upon in Bhagavad Gita. And before we take on with the topics, we'll initially understand various aspects of Bhagavad Gita. That is, what actually the word Bhagavad Gita stands for, and what is the relevance of Bhagavad Gita in today's modern, ultra-modern, metropolitan age. Is it relevant today, or it is a book of Vedic times and it has no relevance today? So, I mean, how is it actually relevant today? So, we'll be discussing on that, and later on, we'll be discussing on the importance of studying Bhagavad Gita, understanding Bhagavad Gita, and practicing Bhagavad Gita. And after which, we'll also discuss on the background or the circumstances under which this Bhagavad Gita was spoken on the war field. And finally, today we'll be discussing on the the organization of the chapters of Bhagavad Gita. The various yoga systems that are discussed in Bhagavad Gita, the various topics that are discussed, and mm, who are the major speakers, and what is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. And finally, we'll discuss on what is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita, and what it actually need, who actually can understand Bhagavad Gita. So with this, we'll be able to understand, are we qualified enough to understand this Gita or not? And what is the qualification that is required to understand Gita? Is it some scholarly expertise or Sanskrit or something which will help us, or what actually is required? So we'll be discussing on this. So these are the major aspects that we are going to cover today. And lastly, we'll be discussing on the five topics that are five subject matters that are discussed in Gita. And we'll have, I'll kind of very briefly elaborate on each of these five topics, because these will be discussed in detail in the next 4 days. Okay. So each day will be taking up one topic each, and towards the last day, on the last day, we'll be particularly discussing about yes, now that we have heard of Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter and this and that, and how do I practice it in my daily life? Without understanding this, without discussing upon this, the discussion on Bhagavad Gita will remain incomplete. It will simply remain in the books, and will not be brought into practice. So how do we actually, what changes that we are supposed to bring about in our lives, so as to practice the principles of Bhagavad Gita in our daily life? Because for many people, seems that the principles of Bhagavad Gita are not, it is simply a book to be crammed or understood, but it cannot be practiced. But it's not so. Rather, it can very well be practiced in daily life. And what are we supposed to do after understanding this Gita? What changes we are supposed to bring up in our life? How do we how do we practice the principles of Gita in daily life? This is the last session that we're going to discuss upon. This is how the entire course is organized. So now we have a brief understanding of what we are going to discuss when, and what is to be expected of this course and all. Is it okay? And now, so we'll begin with our discussion. Before I could begin with, I would like to congratulate, thank, and express my gratitude to each one of you for really taking out time for hearing Bhagavad Gita. You would have been to Logic Mall, or you could have been to some multiplex theater. You could have been to some marketplace shopping around. You could have done many other things during this time. And whatnot. You could have, because this is the prime time. Many prime shows should be going on the TV, but you're missing all of that, and you are hearing Bhagavad Gita, definitely it is a great, great adventure that you are doing. And initially, the focus was on big theaters, and later on, the focus shifted to the smaller theaters within home theaters and home. And now all the focus is on the smaller screens, that is mobiles, wherein you could have been very busy scrolling across all the reels on Instagram and shorts and YouTube and all of this, but still sacrificing all of that, you are here to hear Bhagavad Gita. Mm. So that is a great, great sacrifice that you have done, which really is worth appreciating. So thank you so much for your time. And now, so we'll begin with. First of all, the word Bhagavad Gita, what does it actually stand for? Mm. Bhagavad Gita means the song of God. Mm. Bhagavad, it denotes God, and Gita means song. So Bhagavad Gita actually means song of God. So now we are going to hear, read, understand that very song which was composed by the Lord, which was sung by the Lord. So you can imagine how beautiful the song could be. You know? If the law, I mean, whosoever is singing any type of songs today, their voices are actually given by the Lord, no? They're able to, and the very person who's giving them such nice voice, you can imagine the kind of voice or tone the Lord would have. That's why it is said in Gopi Geet that when the Lord speaks, Madhuraya gira valgu vakyaya, when he speaks, his words are so sweet and so meaningful and so relishable, that it seems or it appears as if honey is dripping from his mouth. Mm. Honey is dripping from his mouth. This is how it seems to be. So sweet are the words of Lord. Mm. And all the songs that we come across in today's world are all composed by the people whom the Lord created, whom the Lord gave some intelligence with. And that very person who is the source of all of this intelligence is composing a song. So you can imagine the kind of lyrics it can have and the kind of meaning it can carry and the kind of effect or influence it can have upon us. Upon us. So that's why this song stood on top of the list for the past 5,000 years since the song was sung. Many of the songs have topped the have topped the industry at the most for a year, for a two, or for max three. After that, they become irrelevant and people forget. But this is such a song which is remembered for the past 5,000 years, and for the past 5,000 years, people relish singing it, people relish the meaning of this, people wish to practice this, and people have understood this to be the highest philosophy. And that is why there are more than 1,000 different 1,000 people commenting or explaining the verses of Gita. More than 1,000 versions of it. Because people, this itself shows how people, how the philosophers take a lot of interest in studying and explaining Gita. So that's why this is one, that song which has topped the list for the past 5,000 years, because it is composed by the Lord and it is sung by the Lord. And you must have heard many, many songs until now. Many songs sung in Bollywood, many in Hollywood and other places. But definitely all of these songs would must have had little bit of influence on us. but never a song would have such an influence to transform of lives altogether. But this song which we are going to hear now is really going to transform of our lives if at all we pay attention to it. Mm. If at all we pay attention to it, if at all we try to understand it, contemplate on the meaning, then it is for sure that it will definitely bring about a transformation in our lives. And this is what these shlokas or these verses of Gita have been doing for the past 5,000 years, transforming people. Mm. people Transforming people from being passionate to compassionate. Mm. Transforming people from being lusty to be loving, transforming people from arrogant to mercifulness. So this is how this slokas of Bhagavad Gita have been transforming people for ages together, and today also we can see Bhagavad Gita transforming many lives. Mm. Many lives. So this is going to be a very wonderful experience to hear this song. And having understood what actually Bhagavad Gita stands for, now we'll discuss about the relevancy of Bhagavad Gita. Mm. Because it is hardly, and I mean, it is most of the people believe that. Most of the people believe that this Bhagavad Gita was spoken so many thousands and thousands of years ago. And now that it is, I mean, the age has completely changed. Mm. And it is a metropolitan age, and everything is automated, and everything happens instantly, and the people's lives have changed a lot. Mm. And in this modern age, how come these principles of bygone ages stand relevant today? But the thing is, that is the reason to help us understand or appreciate. This knowledge is actually called timeless wisdom. Mm. Timeless wisdom means that wisdom which is never to be influenced by time. Time wouldn't have any influence on the principles which are stated in this wisdom literature. Mm. So the principles of Bhagavad Gita are going to be are equally valid 5,000 years ago, 5 lakh years ago, and today, and they're going to be equally valid even after 5,000 years or after 5 lakh years. 5 lakh years, the principles are going to remain the same. Mm. Just as if somebody asks, yes, now we see the sun rising in the east. Mm. Mm. Was the sun rising in the east 5,000 years ago? What do you say? 5,000 years ago, the sun, is there any doubt about it? Mm. What about 5 lakh years ago? This is a principle which is not going to be affected by time, right? Mm. Just as the principle of sun rising in the east is not going to be affected by time, it is going to it is the same in the past, it is the same today, and it is going to remain same for ages to come. No. So similarly, the facts that are stated in Bhagavad Gita, they are also eternal facts. Eternal facts which are not influenced, which do not which which do not simply go irrelevant based upon time, place, and circumstance. Irrespective of time, place, and circumstance, these principles are going to stand valid for all time to come. For all time to come. So that's why please do not think that Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5,000 years ago, and how come these principles be applicable today? No, they are equally valid today. Equally valid today. So please remove this misunderstanding from our brains. And and in this topic only, we'll also discuss another aspect of this. कि, ठीक है, I accept that Bhagavad Gita is relevant today. But I don't think that it is relevant to me. I don't think it is so relevant to me. What it has to do with me? Hmm. What it has to do with me? This we're going to discuss now. No, Bhagavad Gita is relevant for each and every one of us. Irrespective of religion, country, creed, color, anything. It is because sun rises in the east, not just for Indians. Sun rises in the east for all the countries on earth, right? Mm. So similarly, the facts that are stated in Gita, they are equally applicable and relevant and factual for any one on this earth, irrespective of religion, caste, creed, country, color, anything. Anything. Because these are all eternal principles or universal principles, which are being discussed in Gita. And mm, how it is applicable in this, in this modern age, this is a question at hand now. See, in this modern age, you can just think about the circumstances in which the knowledge of Gita was spoken to Arjuna. Arjuna, probably this is the world's first motivational seminar that was ever delivered. The speaker is the Supreme Lord Krishna. Nowadays, we see many, many motivational seminars and motivational speakers coming up, but the original motivational speaker is Krishna. And who, unto whom he delivered this? Unto Arjuna. And where was it delivered? In an centrally air conditioned auditorium, seminar hall, with a projector or something, some arrangement of the sort. Nothing. Rather, he delivered this seminar of this motivational speech on a bar field, wherein everything for war was completely set. And what to say about everything being set, rather, even the signals for the war to start were already given. Just like we have a green signal means now the vehicles can start. So similarly, for a war to begin, there's people blow their conchs. Once the conchs are blown, it is an indication that war has begun, and anybody can throw their weapons or mm, throw their weapons at any time without any further notice. So in that way, Bhagavad Gita was spoken after the conchs were blown. So you can imagine the kind of and the kind of how tense situation it was. And how, what the kind of crisis that Arjuna is going through at that point of time. And the kind of pressure that he was going through. Because sitting in an AC seminar hall, it is very easy to speak brilliant things. But to stand on a war field and still speaking speaking consciously relevant facts is very, very difficult, because it is very difficult to maintain one's composure there. Composure there, because everything is set and people are going to fight. At that point of time, to maintain one's composure and still speaking very consciously relevant things is really a difficult thing, which Krishna has done. Mm. And Krishna has delivered such a wonderful motivational speech, that the very person who was crying and who was shivering and who was telling Krishna that I'm not going to fight now, I've lost all of my composure, I'm confused, it is not, it is not possible for me to fight anymore, so let me run away. And this was the state of Arjuna when he began to hear Bhagavad Gita. Mm. But once he heard Bhagavad Gita, what was Arjuna's state? Arjuna very confidently he told Krishna, mm, Krishna, ki नष्टमोह स्मृतलद्वा तत्प्रसादात् मयाच्युत नष्टमोह स्मृतलद्वा तत्प्रसादात् मयाच्युत. Hey Krishna, because of your mercy, out of your mercy, all of my illusion is now destroyed. I regain my memory. Now that now that all of my illusion is destroyed and I have regained my memory, I promise that. Karishye vachanam tava. I have promised to follow whatever you tell me. Yes, you want me to fight? I am here ready to fight. And this was the confidence of Arjuna after hearing Gita. And this was done right there on the war field. Right there on the war field. And this is an instant transformation that was brought about in Arjuna after this 45 minutes to 60 minutes of speech by Lord Krishna. See, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, when Arjuna approached Krishna saying that, Krishna, I'm no more in a position to handle my own self. I'm not able to handle my composure. My hands, my body is shivering and I'm sweating. And Arjuna literally was crying tears, and his voice was faltering. In that state, Arjuna approached the Lord. This is the kind of situation people are into normally in our lives. Every day, some or the other time, we find this sort of a critical situation in our life, right? Mm. Mm. Nobody can ever say that I do not face any such critical situation in my life. Just like Arjuna is facing, similarly, everyone, now and then they come across these kind of situations in their lives wherein they are indecisive, wherein they are very nervous, wherein they are very frightened, we are very fearful. This sort of situations we often come across wherein we are not able to understand what is to be done and what not, and what is right and what is wrong. All of these, at times we are unable to take a decision upon our own. Then in such a state of mind, what is to be done by a person is what is being instructed in Gita. How a person is supposed to respond to such a situation. When such critical situations come up in one's life, and how does a person supposed to respond to such situations, and how we can handle the situation in a very positive way. That is what is being told in Gita, and so successfully Krishna trained Arjuna in such a way that Arjuna was successful enough to handle himself. He has handled the situation. He was able to maintain his composure by the end of the session. So this is, this is how Gita is going to help each one of us by training each one of us in such a way that we will be able to handle such critical situations in our lives. And nowadays, people not being trained in all of this. Nowadays, people not being trained in all of this, they are simply cramming up books. They're simply cramming up books, and they're simply taught to operate with machines. They are simply taught to operate with chemicals and lifeless substances and all of this. But ultimately, people See, I mean, even after you learn how to operate computers and many other machines, ultimately we are not going to live with machines around, right? Mm. We are supposed to live with people who have life. Mm. And what subject is there in our curriculum wherein we are taught about this very science of dealing with people. Mm. How to deal with mother, father, how to deal with one's spouse, how to deal with children, what subject is teaching us. And ultimately, at home, we are supposed to live with these people, right? And people are never taught this science. They are simply taught how to operate the machines and how to repair them and how what not, all of this. Then how can you expect that people will behave in the right way with the people because they are not trained from childhood? Mm. So that's why, in one sense, we remain literate fools. Mm. We simply remain literate fools because we simply have understood some, we have simply crammed some knowledge. We have simply have understood how to operate with machines, but rarely we understand how to deal with people. And that is what Gita is going to train us with. Mm. It is going to train us, help us understand how to deal with people and what are the qualities that are required to deal with people around us. Mm. It will help us, train us, and it will also give us, show us the way by which we can develop these qualities within us, which will be helpful to deal with each other. So, is this not relevant today? Mm. Are we going to live, are we living in an age wherein we are going to simply spend time with machines? Mm. Whatsoever technology we may be having, at the end of the day, we got to speak with people, we got to live with people, we got to exchange our emotions with people. And that is what Gita is going to train us with. So that's why Gita stands relevant today and for ages to come. Because these critical situations will keep coming up in everyone's life. Whatsoever technological advancement we may see, and whatsoever technological advancement there might be, still we got to deal with people. So all of these things are being taught in Gita. Mm. And thirdly, thirdly, uh, many of us are living without understanding what the purpose of life is. What the purpose of life is. Although many of us are well educated, but little did we ever think about this. Because we are so busy with our studies and job and family life and this and that, that we never had a time to ponder about this key, what actually the purpose of my life is. What is the purpose of life? Never did we think. And Gita is going to help us understand what actually is the purpose of life. What actually is the purpose of life for which we are given this human birth. Human birth, and what are we supposed to do? Unless and until a person understands what the purpose of his life is, what the goal of his life is, and how can he ever get to know what path to take? Because unless and until we know the destination, how can we how can we understand what path is to be taken? People are simply people are simply choosing paths, simply being driven by their own mental speculation, without ever understanding what actually the purpose or the destination or the goal of life is. Bhagavad Gita will help us understand what actually the purpose of life, what is the goal of life, and what is the destination of life. So that's the reason. That's the reason we got to understand Bhagavad Gita, because it is going to help make our lives more meaningful. Although we may be having innumerable facilities, although we may be having innumerable innumerable things at our disposal. But still, all of these are irrelevant as long as we do not understand the very purpose of life. Very purpose of life. It is a mere foolishness to simply spend our time without understanding the purpose. Just as when we set out of our homes with a car or vehicle, even before we start the engine, or we step out of the home, even before we step out, we are well aware where we wish to go. Yes, I want to go to the temple, I want to go to the mall, I want to go to movie or something. You have something something in your mind that, this is where I have to go. Then only you'll set out of your home, right? So for a half an hour or a 1 hour journey, you're very clear with your destination. For a mere half an hour or 1 hour journey, you are very clear with the destination and the path that you are supposed to take. Then if you are so serious about 30-minute, 60-minute journey, then what to say about life journey? What to say about life's journey? We are investing 60 years, 70 years, 80 years of time. And without even understanding where we are heading towards. Where we are heading towards. The whole civilization is so made to keep us illusioned, or is so made, we are so caught up in the nitty-gritties of the world that, we are simply focusing upon economical development, or making up homes and this and that and this and that. All of our time is lost in all of this. Hardly we get time to understand what actually the purpose of life is, and Bhagavad Gita actually helps us understand this very purpose of life. And not only that, it will also help us understand the path that will help us get there. It will also help us understand what is the path that is to be taken so that we can get to that destination. So this is what is to be understood from Bhagavad Gita. This is what is to be understood. Do you think all of these things that I have talked upon now, are they relevant or irrelevant? They are relevant irrespective of whether we are a boy or whether we are a girl, whether we come from a rich family or a poor family, whether whatsoever, from whichever background we belong to, still it's going to be relevant. So that's why Bhagavad Gita is meant for each and every one of us. Each and every one of us. So that's why I pray and request each one of you to please, please, please pay attention to this wonderful message that Krishna has sent you. You have been reading many, many messages every day on your WhatsApp, on your Instagram, and on your Facebook, and mails, and this and that. But this is one message in your inbox which is lying unread for 5,000 years. Which is lying unread for 5,000 years. We not care to read it. The Lord is still waiting and waiting and waiting to see that day when you're going to open your inbox and read this mail. See, if you send a WhatsApp message to one of your friend, and if he doesn't read it, although he's so seen to be live, but still you find that he hasn't read your message for one full day. You feel dejected, right? You feel ignored, neglected. You feel that you're not given any importance, you're not valued, your message is not valued. So if we feel so just for one day, then you can imagine what the Lord should be feeling about each one of us mm, when his message is left unread for 5,000 years. Mm. Although we see Bhagavad Gita with great respect, but often, but rarely people open that book and read it to know what actually God has spoken. Now it's high time for us to open it and read what message the Lord intends to mm, tell me. And so it is so important to each and every one of us. And have you ever wondered that every time in the morning we go up to the altar and fold our hands and offer prayers? Mm. So in the prayers, often we speak to the Lord. Mm. But have you ever mm, paid attention to hear what the Lord has to tell you in answer to your prayers? Mm. And without hearing to the Lord, people simply keep thinking that my prayers are unanswered. Mm. I really wonder whether the Lord is hearing my prayers or not. Mm. I don't get to see him replying to my prayers. But it is not so. The Lord has recorded his reply to all of your prayers in Bhagavad Gita. Even before you could offer your prayer, the Lord has answered your prayers in Gita. The only problem is that we have never ever referred to Gita to understand what the Lord has to tell me. So that's why we remain ignorant about the answers to our prayers and feel that our prayers are unanswered. But it is not so. Rather, each and every prayer is well heard, and the Lord answers each of the prayers. Mm. And now pay attention to what answers are given in Gita. What answers are given in Gita. Many people have seen, they share their realization after reading Gita, saying that, yes, all the questions on my mind are now answered. Are now answered. So, so relevant is Bhagavad Gita to each one of us. So, do you have now sufficient information to uh, tell your mind and tell others how relevant is Bhagavad Gita to each one of us, right? Mm, good. So after this, we'll be discussing about the importance of Bhagavad Gita. We have understood the meaning of Bhagavad Gita. We have understood the relevancy of Bhagavad Gita in today's world to each one of us. And now we'll understand what is the importance of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, although in many other religions, they just have one book. They just have one book. But in Sanatan Dharma, we have lots and lots and lots of literature. Even many lifetimes put together will not be able to read all of the literature. So much of literature we have. And then then in today's situation, wherein we hardly find time to read anything, in such a situation, how can we understand, how can we go through all of the literature and understand the essence? So that is why in the on the outset of Kali Yuga, or the towards the end of Dwapar Yuga, that is 5,250 years before, Lord Krishna spoke this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. This knowledge is understood or said or accepted to be the essence of all the Vedic literature. This is accepted to be the essence of all the Vedic literature. That is why there is a book called Gita Mahatmya, written by Shankaracharya more than 1,000 years ago. And this Gita Mahatmya speaks about the glories of Bhagavad Gita, the importance of Bhagavad Gita. In that scripture it is said, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam, Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva, Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani, Karmapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva. In this it is said, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam. One scripture is sufficient for the humanity to understand the purpose of life and to realize the purpose of life. One scripture is sufficient. And what is that one scripture? Devaki Putra Gitam. Devaki Putra. Who is Devaki Putra? Krishna. Krishna. And the songs sung by Krishna, that is Bhagavad Gita. This Bhagavad Gita is one scripture that is sufficient for the humanity at large. Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam. Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva. One Supreme Lord who is worshipable for the entire humanity is Devaki Putra Eva, is the son of Devaki, that is Krishna. Eko mantrastasya namani yani. There is no need of reciting so many mantras. Rather, one mantra is sufficient enough. And what is that mantra? That mantra is nothing but the Lord's name. Devaki Tasya Namani Yani. The holy names of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, Rama, Hari. So in this way, the holy names of the Lord are the best mantras which should be recited. And Karma api ekam tasya devasya seva. And what should be the occupation of a human? Tasya devasya seva. Which is free from all karmic reactions, and that is the service unto Lord Krishna. So in this way, therein it is said that one scripture is good enough for the entire humanity. And why so? It is described in another shloka saying, Sarvopanishado gavo dogda gopalanandana parto vatsasu dharbhokta dugdam gitamratam mahat. In this shloka, Shankaracharya speaks about Sarvopanishado gavo dogda gopalanandana. If we understand, if we compare the entire Vedic literature onto a cow, if we compare the entire Vedic literature onto a cow, and the milkman being Lord Krishna himself, and the calf being Arjuna, then the milk that is extracted, or the milk that is milked from the cow, is Bhagavad Gita. Is Bhagavad Gita. Milk is said to be the very essence of the cow, right? Milk is said to be the very essence of the cow. And who can milk a cow? Milkman will milk the cow. And who is that milkman who is going to milk the cow, which is the Vedic literature? That is Krishna himself. And what is the milk that is coming out? The milk that is coming out is Bhagavad Gita, which is the essence of the cow, or the essence of the entire Vedic literature. Although The cow gives milk. The cow produces milk for the sake of its calf. But the question is, does only the calf drink all of the milk? Or we also have some? We do have, no? If the calf starts drinking the entire milk, it will die. Its digestive system does not support so much of milk. So, so similarly, the principles of Gita are here being spoken to Arjuna, although Arjuna is the recipient, but still the slokas of Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is not simply meant for Arjuna, just as the milk is not simply meant for the calf, rather it is also meant for all of us. Similarly, the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, although it is being spoken to Arjuna, it is not simply meant for Arjuna, rather through Arjuna it is being given to all of us to follow and understand. For all of us to follow. So in this way, here also, in this shloka also, it is understood that Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all the Vedic literature. Bhagavad Gita is said to be the essence of all the Vedic literature. And one more thing, it is also said that Bhagavad Gita is one scripture that is directly spoken by the Lord. Although there are many other scriptures which are written by great saintly people, but this Bhagavad Gita is one literature that is actually directly spoken by the Lord Himself. That is why it is said, Swayam Padmanabhasya Mukha Padmat Vinishritaha. Swayam Padmanabhasya. Padmanabh means Krishna. Padmanabh, this is another, it is another name of Krishna, Padmanabha, Swayam Padmanabhasya. This knowledge is spoken by Padmanabh, Krishna himself. Mukha Padmat means his mouth is compared onto a lotus. This knowledge has appeared from the lotus mouth of Krishna. So in that way, this Bhagavad Gita gains even more greater importance because it is spoken directly with the Lord. It is spoken directly with the Lord. So in that way, this Bhagavad Gita is a very, very, very important literature, scripture. And although we may not get time to read all of the Vedas, all of the Puranas, all of the Upanishads, and Mahabharata, Ramayana, and all of this. But if you simply want to understand what actually is the essence of all of this, then if you read Bhagavad Gita, you'll be able to understand what actually is the essence. So that's why, in a very in a very compact manner, Lord Krishna spoke this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, which is the essence of all the scriptures, onto Arjuna. And now, because of that conversation, we are all now fortunate enough to hear, understand, read Bhagavad Gita even today. So this is the importance of Bhagavad Gita. And in this way, we can speak a lot about Bhagavad Gita, but looking at the time, we'll have to move ahead. And before I get into the background of Bhagavad Gita and the various divisions of Bhagavad Gita, I would like to talk something about what is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita and what is the mood which is required to understand Bhagavad Gita. Who can understand Bhagavad Gita? First of all, we'll discuss about what is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Hope that you are all able to understand whatever is being discussed here. because we are not discussing rocket science, because I also don't know rocket science. Mm. If a person like me can understand Gita, then you all are so intelligent. So you can very easily understand. Mm. You can very easily understand because you're all very, very intelligent people. So simply you'll have to devote some time to understand this. Now we'll discuss about what is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Mm. The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is, if we simply want to summarize in one sentence, it is transformation of heart. Transformation of heart is the actual purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Rather, in one sense, the purpose of entire religion or spirituality is transformation of heart. If we are practicing religion or if we are practicing spirituality, if our heart remains hard and there is no transformation in it, then what sort of religion are we practicing? And what sort of spirituality are we practicing? Or if we are practicing rituals, but after that, our heart doesn't, there's no transformation in our heart, then that means we are not really achieving the purpose. We are simply practicing, we are simply following the rituals simply for the sake of following it. But that is not going to work. If we are really practicing, if we really understand Bhagavad Gita, there should be a change or a transformation in our heart. The quality of our heart should improve. Passion should slowly and gradually translate into compassion. Arrogance should translate into mercy. So in this way, all vices should be transformed into virtues. All bad qualities should be transformed to good qualities. One should get rid of bad habits. So this actually should be the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. And now, so is it all simply to make us a good person? But the fact is, the purpose of Bhagavad Gita does not stop here. Does not stop here. It is not simply meant to make us a good person, but it is to help us realize the very purpose of life. Very purpose of life. And what is the purpose of life? The purpose of life is to to develop genuine love for God. To develop genuine love for God is what is the actual purpose of life. If you can love God, then automatically you will be loving each and every living entity. Be it be your family members, be other living organisms, be other humans or whatsoever. You will be able to love each one of them. Because love for God is the very source or the pivotal point for loving others. So in that way, the purpose of life is to develop this love. You know? Prema pumato mahan. Pumatah. Pum, matlab pum sahaman means humans. Artah means purpose. Pumartah means the purpose of human is what? Prema pumarto. Prema means love. And love for whom? Love for Krishna. Love for Krishna. So in that way, the purpose of life is Prema Pumarto Mahan. This is the ultimate purpose of life, to love Krishna, to love God. And Bhagavad Gita helps us realize this purpose. See, and uh, and this was actually, this is what actually happened when Srila Prabhupada, the very founder Acharya of ISKCON, when he published Bhagavad Gita, and that Bhagavad Gita, when it was widely distributed amongst the common people, and people started reading Bhagavad Gita, and this is what started happening to them. This is what started happening to them. Their hearts began to change. Hearts began to change. That's why at one time, a very famous magician, he came to an ISKCON temple as a matter of service. He told that I would like to entertain the devotees by putting up some magical performance here. And then he performed some magics there. And after all of the magic, then he pointed it, he turned to Srila Prabhupada and he asked Prabhupada, the founder of Acharya of ISKCON, who established all of this and whose Bhagavad Gita we are going to study now. He asked him, Swamiji, I have done so much of magic and you are Swamiji, can you also show some magic? Then Prabhupada told him, you cannot do magic as I did. Definitely not. Then he was surprised. I'm the biggest magician of India. Then how can you challenge me? Then Prabhupada showed. See, these all people were hippies. These all people were hippies, smoking all the day long. They were into drugs. They were drinking, and they were into all sorts of addictions, and they were after illicit sex. And now, after taking to Krishna consciousness, they gave up all of their bad habits, to the extent that those very people who were taking drugs few years ago, now they have given up things to such an extent they don't even drink tea and coffee for the sake of caffeine. Just because caffeine is there in coffee, so they have given up coffee. Because nicotine is there in tea, they have given up tea. To such extent, to that extent, they have given up all of this. And those very people who are addicted to illicit sex life, and these people are now practicing brahmacharya. Or practicing brahmacharya. And these very people who used to feel burden upon wearing clothes, many of them used to roam on the streets of on the streets naked. Because in 1960s there was some counterculture which started in US, wherein all the students of big universities and very young people coming from rich families, they started giving up their student life, their work life, their families, and they started leading a very free life, without caring for what they're doing and what is going to happen. So, and Srila Prabhupada started preaching in such a community. Started preaching in such a community, and these people who are not in a position to listen to listen to the parents, listen to their professors, they not care for the government. The government was spending millions and millions of rupees to simply transform these people and get them back to their homes, but none of them were listening to the government as well. Srila Prabhupada started preaching in such a place, and he brought these people to consciousness. And the then the people the fathers of the church, they used to say, these people who never ever visited church in their life, I'm surprised to see that these people are now mad after God, after this, after they came in contact with Swamiji. Mm. Then Prabhupada told, these hippies who were into all of these, now they have become happies in the service of Krishna. Can you do this? Mm. Can you do this? Then he was dumb. Mm. He had no words to speak. Mm. He had no words to speak. This is the kind of magic that is actually possible. This when Bhagavad Gita is spoken in its real form, without adulterating it, without adding or subtracting anything from it. If we speak Bhagavad Gita as it is, as it was spoken to Arjuna, it will have similar effect that it had on Arjuna. Just like Bhagavad Gita, after hearing Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna's heart was transformed. Similarly, if we really hear Bhagavad Gita from the right source, if we read Bhagavad Gita, which is explained in the right sense, then those words will literally transform our hearts. Literally transform our hearts. And this is guaranteed. This is guaranteed. And that is why we are able to see this transformation in the hearts of millions of people worldwide. Millions of people worldwide. You know, there are innumerable such stories which I can tell you, how the literature, how the words of Bhagavad Gita have brought about great transformation in people's lives. Just like one time, a person went, not in our, this is not a incident in our country, this happened elsewhere in a foreign country. One person went up to a watermelon shop to eat watermelon. So he ate watermelon. After that, he went to dispose of the skin, and he went to throw it in the trash box. And while he was just about to throw that watermelon skin in trash box, he was surprised to see that a sealed book in the trash box. Then he thought, let me take it and see what actually is a sealed package. Then he took it up and threw his watermelon plate in the trash box. Then to his surprise, he saw that this seems to be some book called Bhagavad Gita. And he found Bhagavad Gita in a dustbin trash box. And took it, and he never know what is Bhagavad Gita, who is Krishna, what is Hinduism, what is Sanatana Dharma, anything. This is all completely foreign to him. He just took that book. He went to his home, and he opened the book, and he kind of started reading it daily, little by little. And he found it so interesting that he started reading it more and more and more and more. He, he is a person who is completely foreign to our, religion of Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism. He don't know who is Krishna at all. He hasn't ever heard the name of Krishna in his life, entire life. And such a person, such a foreign person, is now reading Gita, and he found Gita so interesting and so interesting and so absorbing that he started reading it daily and daily and daily. And slowly and gradually, the words of Gita started having influence on him, and he started giving up all of his bad habits. And usually, most of the foreigners are non-vegetarians, and he was also so, and he was also into all sorts of bad habits. And slowly and gradually, even though nobody asked him to give them up, but still on his own, he started giving up all of the bad habits. And not just that, because he found in Bhagavad Gita that one has to chant the names of God, he started chanting on his own. Nobody was mentoring him, nobody was guiding him, nobody was inspiring him. He's simply reading Bhagavad Gita. He started chanting the names of God. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In this way, he started chanting and chanting and chanting, and and he slowly increased his chanting, and he started chanting 16 rounds daily. Hmm. 16 rounds daily, and after a couple of years, he somehow or other gets in contact with some devotees, and he visits a nearby temple, nearby temple, and and there he meets a devotee, mm, and he tells him, in Gita, Krishna said that we should surrender to him. And now I'm here before you to surrender to Krishna, my entire self, my very property, and my entire existence in the service of Krishna. So this is the kind of transformation that, I mean, from a neophyte stage to a stage wherein a person completely surrenders one very existence to Krishna. To that highest level, he can simply rise by the words of Bhagavad Gita. This is the kind of influence the words of Bhagavad Gita can have when they are when they are spoken in the right spirit, and when they are accepted in the right spirit. This is the kind of transformation. And similarly, there's one other incident wherein a person, just like devotees, you must have come across many ISKCON devotees distributing Gita on roads. In one foreign country, devotees were distributing Bhagavad Gita on the road. And one thief, was one criminal, he was kind of running away from the police. And our devotees, they do not discriminate between police and criminal and whosoever it is. They simply try to give him Bhagavad Gita. They somehow caught hold of this person and gave him a Bhagavad Gita. And the police came and caught him up and put him in the vehicle. And he thought, anyways, I'll have to go to jail. Let me buy a Gita and go. So he bought that book. He don't know what is Bhagavad Gita and all of this. He bought that book, and with that book only he got arrested and he went into the jail. Went into the jail. And in the jail, what I mean, the people do not have any work to do, right? So he thought, let me just go through these books. Anyways, I have invested in it. So he started reading it. And when he started reading it, slowly and gradually, he found it so interesting that he absorbed himself in the words of Bhagavad Gita, and the word Bhagavad Gita started having influence on him, and slowly and gradually his behavior started changing. And the jailer, he noticed a change in this person. Then the jailer asked, I have seen you coming to the jail very often. Every time I send you out, you come back. Every time I send you out, you come back for some other reason. So in that way, I keep seeing you going in and out. But this time I see you a very different way. There's a lot of transformation that I'm able to sense in you. What's happening? Then he told me, I don't know, sir. I'm reading this book, and this book has that influence on me. I'm being inspired by this book. Then he told, what is this book? Then he found that this Gita. Then the jailer himself, he contacted the nearest ISKCON temple, and he ordered copies of Bhagavad Gita for all of the jail inmates. He ordered Bhagavad Gita copies for all of the jail inmates, so that all of the jail inmates can read Bhagavad Gita and transform their lives. So is the influence of the words of Gita when they are spoken in the right spirit and heard in the right spirit. So that's why they have very much transforming effect. And lastly, what is the mode in which we'll have to understand Bhagavad Gita? It is not that everyone can understand Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, and what it takes to understand Gita. Please hear that. Mm. See, it is not actually a person's scholarship which can help a person understand Gita. Because many a time people say that I don't understand Sanskrit, I don't know Sanskrit, how can I read Bhagavad Gita? Mm. But there's no need for us to become a Sanskrit scholar to understand Bhagavad Gita. No need. Mm. Because Krishna did not speak Gita for Sanskrit scholars. Mm. Krishna did not speak Bhagavad Gita for Sanskrit scholars. Rather, Krishna spoke this Bhagavad Gita for, for each one of us. Each one of us. That means each one of us are equipped enough to understand Bhagavad Gita. But only thing is that whatever faculties we are offered by the Supreme Lord, we should utilize these faculties to understand Bhagavad Gita. That's it. And who can understand Bhagavad Gita? As I've told, it is not by scholarly attitude one can understand Bhagavad Gita. One may read Bhagavad Gita 100 times and memorize all of the shlokas. There are many people in the world who can verbatim repeat all of the 700 shlokas of Bhagavad Gita without looking into it. Without referring to a book, without referring to book Bhagavad Gita, they can recite all the 700 shlokas without seeing. They have such expertise. But the question is, ठीक है, you can speak 700 shlokas, but can you practice one shloka? Can you practice one shloka? Do you think that Krishna spoke this Bhagavad Gita simply to memorize, or Krishna did speak Bhagavad Gita to practice? Bhagavad Gita is meant actually to be practiced in one's life. So that's why it doesn't need for a person to be a great scholar to understand Bhagavad Gita. It doesn't need. Then what else? What other qualification do we need? For this, I just want to narrate a small pastime. Once, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was traveling in South India and he went to a temple called Sri Rangam. You must have heard of it. Sri Rangam is said to be world's second largest temple in South India. He went to Sri Rangam, he took darshan of the Lord, he danced in front of the Lord, he did kirtan, danced and all of this. After this, when he was returning, he came across a very strange situation, very strange scene there. What he saw was, there was a Brahman sitting who is trying to read Bhagavad Gita. There was a Brahmin sitting there in the temple courtyard and he was trying to read Bhagavad Gita, but somehow he was not being a great expert or a scholar of Sanskrit, he was unable to read Bhagavad Gita, because of which he is kind of stammering while reading Bhagavad Gita. And many other scholars were standing in front of him across the pathway, and they were kind of looking at this person and laughing at him. And this person was so seen to cry tears while he was reading Bhagavad Gita. So seeing this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was surprised. He came up to this Brahman. He asked him, "Hey Brahman, what is happening? What are you doing?" Then he told that, "See, my spiritual master has ordered me to read Bhagavad Gita daily. So although I'm not a great scholar, I do not have the expertise of reading Bhagavad Gita, but still I try to read Bhagavad Gita upon the order of my spiritual master." And these people are laughing because they see so many defects in my recitation, so they are laughing at me. Then Mahaprabhu asked, "ठीक है, I understand this, but what makes you cry? What makes you cry?" Then this person answered, this is very interesting. The person answered, Ki, see, as soon as I start reading Bhagavad Gita, mm, the very scene that comes in front of my eyes is the Supreme Lord, although being the Lord of the entire material creation containing innumerable universes, He is the master of the entire creation. And is the all-powerful Lord. He is the supreme controller. In spite of being the supreme controller, all-powerful, omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, but still that very same Lord is acting as a driver of his own devotee. Seeing the seeing the affection of the Lord for his devotees makes me cry tears for him. Make me cry tears for him, seeing the affection of the Lord for his devotees. In spite of being such a great exalted personality, he is showing his affection towards his devotees by taking to such a menial service, by becoming the driver. Because nobody actually, no billionaire would like to ever sit in the driver's seat and drive the vehicle, keeping a servant behind. But here the Supreme Lord is driving and Arjuna is sitting behind him. And it's not just this. It's not just this. Rather, during the war, because because Arjuna has to instruct Krishna to go right or left. To go right or left, Arjuna has to instruct Krishna. Only then Krishna can go right or left. And in the war, there are a lot of sounds because of which it is very hard for a person to hear a voice, right? It's very tough to, it's not audible at all, because there are a lot of sounds going on. In that state, how do you think that Arjuna would use to ask Krishna to go right or left? Arjuna used to Arjuna with his feet, he used to kick the Lord on his right. This indicates that Krishna has to go right. And if he kicks in his left, then he has to go left. So here, Krishna, although being the Supreme Lord, he's literally receiving kicks from his own devotee, simply in the mood of serving him. So who in this entire creation can be more merciful and more affectionate and more loving than the Supreme Lord? So seeing this affection and love for his devotees makes me cry for him. Makes me cry for him, and that is why I'm crying here. Hearing this, immediately Mahaprabhu, he embraces this Brahman, saying that these foolish scholars are thinking that they are able to understand and recite Gita in perfection. But they are all fools who are simply thinking in this way. But it is actually you who have actually understood the essence of Bhagavad Gita, because the essence of the real a person is said to understand Bhagavad Gita in reality when is able to see the Lord in the pages of Bhagavad Gita. And that is what you are able to do. You are able to see the Lord in the pages of Gita. So when we really read Bhagavad Gita, we'll be able to sense the presence of Krishna in the pages of Bhagavad Gita. Our eyes will be anointed with love for the Lord, that Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santas Sadeva Hrudayeshu Vilokayanti. Our eyes will be anointed with this Prema Anjana, with love for God, and such eyes which are anointed with love for God will be enabled to see the Lord, not just for a moment, but for all the time. People often challenge, can you show me God? Can you show me God? Yes, I can show you, but for that you'll have to anoint your eyes with this love. Anoint your eyes with this love, unless and until you gain this qualification. Just like even if you were to meet a prime minister, there's a qualification, right? Even if you were to meet prime minister, there's a qualification. If after all to meet a prime minister of a simple country, you'll have to have some certain qualification to meet him, then what to say about meeting the Supreme Lord? And this is the qualification that is required, that is love for God. That is love for God. Once you have the love for God, then you can see God not just for once, but for all the time to come. Mm. So this is the mood that actually helps us understand Bhagavad Gita. Mm. This is the mood. A mood of humility, a mood of faith, mm, a mood of surrender. Mm. These are the qualities which actually help one understand Bhagavad Gita. Mm. The more and more you develop these qualities, the more and more Bhagavad Gita reveals onto us. Mm. Because it is not a book like physics, chemistry, mathematics, or social studies, which can be crammed or understood simply by studying it. Rather, the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is something which has to be revealed onto us, and it is revealed onto us by the quality of our heart, in proportion to the quality of our heart. If the quality of our heart is poor, then the knowledge coming to us will also be poor. And as and when we improve the quality, then the knowledge also will be removed more and more to us. So with this, you have a little bit of understanding who actually can understand Gita. Mm. And towards the end, I'll just finally wind this up. Ki, Bhagavad Gita, there are total 18 chapters in Bhagavad Gita, 700 shlokas in Bhagavad Gita. They're primarily, Krishna is the primary speaker, Arjuna is Arjuna, it is a primarily conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. There you can also see two other speakers, Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya. Only one shloka is spoken by Dhritarashtra, and there are maybe less than 100 shlokas spoken by Sanjaya, and more than 150 shlokas spoken by Arjuna, and more than 570 shlokas spoken by Krishna. And in total, there are total 18 chapters. This whole entire 18 chapters can be divided into three sections: first 6 chapters, middle 6 chapters, and last 6 chapters. And first 6 chapters, primarily Karma Yoga is discussed. It is not exclusively, but primarily Karma Yoga is discussed. And in the middle 6 chapters, Bhakti Yoga is discussed. And in the last 6 chapters, Jnana Yoga is discussed. Jnana Yoga is discussed. In this way, these are the topics, and there are primarily 4 yoga systems which are discussed in the entire Gita. That is Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and finally Bhakti Yoga. Karma, Jnana, Dhyana. Dhyana means meditation, Dhyana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, and finally Bhakti Yoga. These are the 4 yoga systems which are discussed in Bhagavad Gita. And in total, there are 5 subject matters that are discussed in Gita. Or in other words, we can say that all of the shlokas in Bhagavad Gita can be categorized into each of these 5 subjects. Each of the shlokas can be categorized in one of these 5 subject matters. That is, in essence, what is spoken in Bhagavad Gita, just these 5 subjects. What are those 5 subjects? Bhagavad Gita talks about Ishvara. Ishvara. Ishvara means God. By reading this section of Bhagavad Gita, you will be able to understand, is there one God or many? God is simple energy or a person. Because many times we see people worship him thinking that the Supreme is simply an energy. But what does Gita has to say on this? Gita also says is it an energy or a person? And God, are they many or one? God are many or one? And if God is one, then who is that one? Who is that one? Because in Sanatana we see so many personalities being worshipped as gods. And who amongst all of them is actually declared as God by Bhagavad Gita? Then if one is God, then what is the position of all the others who are worshipped as gods? And why is it that people are worshipping all of these people then when they are not gods? So all of these concepts will be covering in Ishvara. So if you were to understand these, then you'll have to attend the coming sessions. And second, Jiva. Jiva means living entity, soul. We'll be discussing upon the concept of soul. In that, we'll be discussing about, are we body or soul? Who are we? Are we a body or soul? And what is the soul made up of and what is the body made up of? And what is the nature of the soul? And where does the soul come from? And is this concept of soul scientific? Or is it just a belief? Or is it a concept that is simply invented to make people accept a religion? So in this way, we'll be discussing about soul, and is there some scientific proof to understand the existence of soul? Are there some reasons behind it? Mm, And do we have some case studies defending all of these concepts in contemporary world? So all of these things we'll be discussing. And third, we'll be discussing about karma. Karma. Many times people keep saying that, what does Bhagavad Gita say? Bhagavad Gita asks us to do our karma. I don't know where in Bhagavad Gita it is said so. People think that work is worship. But does Bhagavad Gita actually say so? If work itself is worship, then why is Bhagavad Gita talking about all of the spirituality, meditation, yoga, and all of this? Then how many different types of karma are there, and what kind of karma is supposed to be done and what not? And many times people even ask this question, Prabhuji, I'm such a good person. I haven't ever committed any offense or any sin towards anybody in my life until now. But still, why is it that so many bad things are happening to me? Why is it that bad things are happening with good people like me? I'm such a good person. So we'll be discussing on this. If you're such a good person, then why is it that bad things are happening with such a good persons like you? So we'll be discussing on that. And what does Bhagavad Gita has to say on this? And what sort of actions that we are supposed to perform, and how can we free ourselves from all this karmic reactions and deliver us, and how can we be delivered from this network of karmic reactions? All of this we'll be discussing. And finally, Prakriti and Kala. Prakriti is the material nature that we are living in. What is this material nature made up of, and what is the purpose of this material nature? And why is it that I am put into so much of suffering living in this material world? And I mean, am I free in this material world, or am I being controlled? So all of this, and who is controlling me? And what are the means to control me? And how can I come out of these clutches? How can I be free from all of this? All of that we'll be discussing in Prakriti. And finally, Kala. In this, we'll be discussing about the relativity of time, the existence of time on earthly planet, on heavenly planets, on Satyalok and other places, and what is the concept of time, and how does the time function, and how are we influenced by the functioning of time. All of this we'll be discussing in Kala. So these are the 5 subjects that we are going to discuss in the next 4 days. And lastly, as I've said in the beginning, we'll be discussing about after hearing all of the knowledge in Bhagavad Gita, what is to be done? How can I practice the principles of Gita in my life? What changes do I have to bring about? Can I do it? Staying in my home or not? So all of this we'll be discussing towards the last session. Okay. Thank you so much for your time and patience and attentiveness. Such a good audience you are all. And sorry for being late. Because definitely it is a hard time to cover so much of mm, so much of knowledge, so many concepts in just a short time. 5 days, 700 shlokas or 18 chapters is difficult time. But still, I'm trying my bit. And you're also doing your bit by hearing. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for yet another wonderful session. And to begin with this 5-day online English Bhagavad Gita course, Prabhuji has given us glimpse of what to expect in the coming sessions about this intriguing subject of what is God, what is soul, why good thing happens to bad, why bad thing happen to good individuals, and so on and so forth. So please join us regularly, be benefited. Prabhuji has a very tight schedule. Still, he's taking out time to give us this transcendental knowledge. So I hope that we all will benefit. Before we move on to the question and answer session with Prabhuji's permission, there's a small announcement that I have to make. As at the beginning, I pointed out that this is a certificate-based course. So I'll quickly share a few instructions about how to approach this certificate-based course. There are certain do's and don'ts that we need to follow in order to be eligible and attain the certificate. The very first being you have to attend all the daily quizzes. That means in 5 days we will have 5 daily quizzes. Though the requirement to be eligible to participate in the mega quiz is minimum 3 daily quizzes. Once you complete 3 daily quizzes, you will become eligible to participate in the mega quiz that we'll have at the on the 6th day. The final quiz then you could that you will attempt will have certain requirement. There will be a form which will give you access to the exam form, and in that you have to capture your email ID correctly. Please key in your 10-digit mobile number. Please give your name, your location, as if you're from Noida, Greater Noida West, or from US. Please mention that. You will be disqualified if you use random email IDs like test at the rate of gmail.com, 123 at hotmail.com, so on and so forth. And if you give incorrect phone number, 12345, or you leave it blank, or any session, every session you use a different number or different ID to log in, you will be disqualified. Please be consistent with these three required fields, which is your email ID, your correct phone number, and your name. As if your name is Karan Kumar, please key in Karan Kumar. If in one session, in one question exam, you write your name as Karan. Next, you write Karan Kumar, K Kumar, etc. Different permutation, then it will attract disqualification. So this is a quick information about the examination, the certificate course that we'll have. With Prabhuji's permission, Prabhuji, can we have a few questions?
Yes, yes.
So whosoever wants to ask any question to Prabhuji, please raise your hand. It's a humble request. We have a number of devotees with us. They all will have certain doubts. Please keep your question crisp and related to today's session. So let's begin with question and answer round with Sudha Sharma Mataji. Mataji, please unmute. There will be an option on your screen. Please click on it. That will help you unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Again, gratitude, and let me tell you, the magnetic magic you weave, I can't escape. I don't know, it's the third or the fourth time I'm attending your classes. And let me really bring it to the notice of all of us that just by reading the book, we cannot understand. We need help from people like from devotees, the gurus. What I'm learning, you see, I've attended so many classes, so many sessions. Every time I think I've missed 90% of it. I have not learned even 1%. 90 is, I mean, it's wrong. I have not learned even 1%. Every time you reveal a magic, you reveal a secret, and without that, the purpose which you say is defeated, because unless we get all the expense of the knowledge from people like you, we cannot understand. And it is a must for each and everyone. It is not religion. It has nothing to do with ABC religion or to say ISKCON only. It is so essential for human beings to live life, to be liberated. And that is what I'm realizing. Even I was very sick, but you say I just took a painkiller and sat through it. I'm old, but I just could not disengage from it because it is so important. It's the breath of human life. So we have to approach it in with this spirit to understand what you're trying to teach us, giving us the nectar of life. And second point I would like to make is that you mentioned the incident of that Brahman who saw Lord Krishna while reading Bhagavad Gita. Let me tell you that my experience says even if we are not that pure to see him, but you see, the soul gives you a very loud voice. You do something wrong, the voice says, don't do it. So we have to connect with our consciousness through the guidance from you, from these classes to attend, I don't know, 100 classes or any, these are not enough. So I'm grateful and I'm looking forward to learning more and more as long as I live. I'm old, so I may not have much time, but each moment of this class is very, very precious for living, for breathing, for being born as a human being and to catch that opportunity to liberate ourselves from the cycle of birth. My gratitude to you, indebtedness to you, and please, please, please be there always to guide us.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for your
Very
kind
good.
words. And whatever you are saying, actually, all of these words go as an offering onto Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna, who have actually delivered this knowledge. Without them, I remain as a donkey or a fool. So they have made this donkey like me to sound relevant to people like all of you. And all of the credit goes to these great souls. And Krishna is not simply a soul, he's super soul. Is the Lord. Thank you so much for your words. Yes, next.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Ashwita Jha, Mataji, please unmute and ask a question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Mm.
I have a question that as I was reading the Bhagavad Gita, I came across the purport of a shloka, and it was written that Lord Krishna has more riches than any of the demigods, and like examples were written, Lord Shiva and many more were written, and there was written Narayan. But it is said that Lord Narayan and Lord Krishna are the same. So how can Lord Krishna have more wealth than Lord Narayan?
How come Lord Krishna has more? I mean, he's more wealthier than Narayan. Yes, thank you for your nice question. Definitely, there's actually no difference between Lord Narayan and Krishna because just as mm, just yes, there's no difference between Lord Narayan and Lord Krishna because both of them belong to the same tattva called Vishnu tattva. Vishnu tattva. Still. mm, Still, Lord Narayan is said to have just one Lakshmi at his service. You must have seen many pictures of Lord Narayan wherein Lakshmi is massaging his feet while the Lord is sleeping on the bed of Anantasesha. This is a very common picture that you could have seen somewhere or the other. But it is said in Brahma Samhita that चिंतामणि प्रकर सद्म शुकल्प वृक्ष लक्षावृतेषु सुरभिरभिपालयन्तं लक्ष्मी सहस्र शत संभ्रम सेव्यमानं गोविंदमादि पुरुषं तमहं भजामि. There's just one Lakshmi in the service of Lord Narayan. Then you can imagine Lord Krishna, wherein Krishna is being served by lakhs and lakhs of Lakshmis, waiting to seek the opportunity to serve Krishna. If one Lakshmi can make Narayan so rich, then you can imagine how richer Krishna could be by having lakhs and lakhs of Lakshmis with him. So this is what actually makes Lord Krishna much richer than Lord Narayan. Although, in one sense, there's no difference between Lord Narayan and Lord Krishna, but for your question, this is the answer. Thank you.
Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna.
much, Mataji, for that question. Shivika Gupta Mataji, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for allowing us to hear the glories of Srimad Bhagavad Gita from you. So, Prabhuji, my question is that you said that in order to be able to transform our hearts, we need to listen to Bhagavad Gita from the right source, and it should be spoken in a true, unadulterated way. So, Prabhuji, there are various versions of Bhagavad Gita present, and they are published by various publishers. In fact, nowadays we also have certain writers writing their own points of view on Gita in the genre of fiction. So, given that there are so many versions of Bhagavad Gita available, for the benefit of everybody present here, and just so that we could hear the glories of Srila Prabhupada, what makes Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is the true and authentic Bhagavad Gita? Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much for this question. Here, there's one saying in Vedic scriptures, Phalena Parichita. Phalena Parichaya. That means a tree can be judged by its fruits. A tree can be judged by its fruits. If you get mangoes from a tree, then what kind of tree it is? It is a mango tree. If you get jamuns, it is jamun tree. So a tree can be judged by its fruits. Similarly, the kind of results, the kind of devotees, the kind of transformation that Srila Prabhupada's Gita could bring about in the lives of people like me itself shows how glorious Bhagavad Gita is. How glorious presentation is that of Srila Prabhupada. Although even before Srila Prabhupada wrote this Bhagavad Gita, there were more than 700 to 800 different commentaries or explanations or versions of Bhagavad Gita. But still, hardly anyone could become, did take to devotion, did ever become a devotee. But it is only after Srila Prabhupada has brought this Bhagavad Gita in a very true, authentic version, because of which it actually had flooded the entire world with devotion to Krishna. That is why nowadays we come across many people coming from different walks of life, different countries, and different genders and whatnot. So all of these people are inspired to take to devotion because of the explanations that they came across in the books written by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, because ultimately Bhagavad Gita is not to be understood, as I've told, by any scholarship. Rather, it is understood by the dint of one's devotion, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. It is only by devotion that a person can understand Gita. And who is a devotee? A devotee is one who is mad after Krishna. This is a simple understanding of who a devotee is. And who is said to be mad after Krishna? A person is constantly 24 by 7 engaged in the service of Krishna is a person who is mad after Krishna. So is the life of Srila Prabhupada, wherein 24 by 7 all day long, and not just all day long, but night as well. Night as well. Srila Prabhupada, although he was 70 years old, he simply used to sleep just for 2 hours. Just for 2 hours, he used to sleep at night, and the rest of the time he used to use the time, he used to take out time from his sleep and use it for writing books like this Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and all of this literature he used to write at dead of the night. And during the day, he was busy preaching the message of Bhagavad Gita to people at large, to educating people, to organize sessions, conferences, meetings, building temples, and all of this. He was into all of this during the daytime. And nighttime, he just used to take rest for 2 hours, and then he is awake to write books. And with such a great sacrifice and dedication and devotion, he has shown Bhagavad Gita. And why wouldn't the Lord reveal the true essence of Bhagavad Gita onto such a person who has actually dedicated his entire existence in the service of Krishna? And that is why people like Srila Prabhupada are the ones who can actually understand the essence of Gita, and they are the ones who can actually represent the principles of Gita in the books. So that is the reason Srila Prabhupada's books could bring about such a enormous transformation in the consciousness of the people. It has literally brought about a revolution in the consciousness, which is said in Bhagavatam, Tadvaga visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishloka bhavadavati api. It has really bring about viplava, revolution in the consciousness. And that is why we see it nowadays, people coming from different countries practicing devotion, chanting on the streets, the Hare Krishna Kirtans, practicing the principles of Gita, and practicing giving up the sinful life completely and practicing the principles of Gita. So we are now able to see the magic that this Bhagavad Gita has brought about in this world. So that's why we understand this way. Thank you so much for the question. Although there's a lot more to say on this, but still limiting to the time. Yes.
Prabhuji, there's a question in chat box by Gaurangi Sadhija Mataji. Mataji apologizes for not being able to unmute. She's on the move. Her question is, how can we apply teachings of the Bhagavad Gita in our work life from a young age? And how do we deal with anticipatory anxiety and free ourselves from the illusions of the mind and trust ourselves more?
See, as I've said, I'll be talking about the application of Bhagavad Gita in the last session. But as you have brought up the point, I just want to mention ki, see, definitely we can deal with these problems of life, and definitely and this Bhagavad Gita is meant to be practiced from a very young age. Very young age. It is said in Bhagavatam, Kaumaram acharit pragyo dharman bhagavataniha, wherein it said that the principles of Bhagavad Gita are to be practiced from 5 years of age. 5 years of age, we are very, very late. People usually think that Bhagavad Gita or the spirituality is something which is to be practiced in old age, but Bhagavatam says no, it is to be practiced from 5 years. So in that version, we are very, very late. So definitely it is a good thought that has come to you to practice Gita at a very young age. And definitely you learn how to deal with these problems or tensions or critical situations, as in when you come across relevant shlokas in Bhagavad Gita, wherein you'll develop the understanding how to control your mind, how to come out, how to deal with the stress. Basically, it is all a matter of consciousness. All a matter of consciousness. Bhagavad Gita does not say that by reading Bhagavad Gita, no problem will come to you. Bhagavad Gita will not eliminate the problems. Rather, Bhagavad Gita will train us to deal with the problems. And that is what Krishna did with Arjuna. He did not make the war disappear in front of the Arjun. Rather, he enabled Arjun. He trained Arjun in such a way that he can face the war and he can win the war. And this is what is Bhagavad Gita meant to help us with. It will train us and help us face the life situation as they come upon us and win over them. Win over them with such confidence. ठीक है? Definitely it will come as in when we discuss more and more on this. Thank you.
So much, Prabhuji, for the question. The connected question is in the chat box again, Prabhuji.
Yeah, quickly, it is already time. Asta Mata, she is also.
Okay. Asta Mata, please unmute yourself and ask the question. On your screen, there will be an option asking you to unmute. Please click on it. That will allow you to unmute. Mataji, on your screen, there will be an option asking you to unmute. Please click on it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I thank you enough to be the guiding light towards this enlightenment journey and for the wealth of knowledge that you have shared. My question would be, you said that the actual purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to develop the love for God, the genuine love for God. But many a times there come situations in our life, very difficult situations or tough situations where we feel like questioning God. For example, I've recently been diagnosed with breast cancer stage 3B at the age of 30. And I have so many, I tend to question God that now that I have this disease, so how will I be able to, take care of my aging parents and a sibling who's 40 and intellectually disabled and totally dependent on my parents. So how to, I feel how will be I'll be able to fulfill those responsibilities if I die early. So how to deal with these kind of conflicting things, and how to not question God.
Okay, thank you for your question. These are the kind of real-time situations that people face in day-to-day life, and somebody has to face a very severe version of it, as you are now, and somebody faces a lighter version of it. But the thing is, we will keep questioning the Lord as long as we do not own the responsibility. See, in the when we discuss about karma, we'll be discussing more on this, but still, because the question is asked, so I'm telling ki, see, whatever happens in our life, we hold the complete responsibility because we are being given whatever we have, in response to whatever we have done in the past. And for always believe this, ki an innocent person is never punished in the court of God. An innocent person will never be punished in the court of God, because this is not an Indian court to be misled by any false, false, whatever it is. Rather, it is the court of God, wherein He knows everything and He can make the best judgment. And whatever we have done, and will be given. Um, will be given situations accordingly. This is the first thing, and with this we can understand that we have to take the responsibility that it is my own, all of the situations are absolutely earned by me. All of these situations are earned by me. Once we think in this way, this is the first thing that I'm saying, then we will start owning the responsibility and we will stop blaming God or anybody else. Or not only God, we need not have to blame anybody around us. It is we who are to be blamed for whatever happens with us. So in this way, we own the responsibility and stop blaming. And secondly, yes, when such things happen to oneself, we should, it is kind of completely helpless situation. Although at times we may feel how able we are, but still some situations make us feel how helpless we are. And this is what actually enables one to cry for God. Cry for God, and that appeal that Lord wants to hear from each one of us. Because we haven't called God until now from the core of our hearts. From the core of our hearts, at times these situations in one sense help us to call out the Lord with a great feeling for Him, with the sheer helplessness. The sheer helplessness, and this sort of calls that we make to the Lord will actually come to our rescue. Come to our rescue, because your situation is something that nobody else can help you, nor the doctors, nor your relatives, nor anybody else. Because in life we tend to depend upon all of these people: doctors, relatives, friends, money, this and that. But now we are in a situation where none of these can help. Nor any other properties, nor money, nor doctors, nor nothing and nothing and nothing. So it is God who is going to help at the at the end of the day, and this is what all of these situations actually help us realize, which simple bookish knowledge may not be able to help us understand. Sometimes we come across the statements and we simply overlook them without understanding its essence, but these situations actually help us understand. This is second thing. And thirdly, see, when such situations come up, we seek the shelter of God, Krishna, just as Prahlad Maharaj. You can imagine the situation of Prahlad Maharaj. The very father who is supposed to offer protection, that very father has taken an oath to kill him. Taken oath to kill him, and and he is continuously trying to kill him. And Prahlad Maharaj, he was continuously trying to take the shelter of the Lord. So from Prahlad Maharaj past time, we can understand how one should take the shelter of Krishna. And secondly, one has to do whatever best he can to handle the situation, whatever best we can, because remember, taking shelter of Krishna gives us that strength to our heart to face the situation and do whatever it takes to deal with the situation, and leave the rest to God. Do your best and leave the rest to God, because there is nothing else that you can ever do. that you can ever do. And this is what is supposed to be done. And although there's a lot more to it, but still we will finish here. Thank you. I definitely pray to the Lord that He gives you the strength required to face whatever is coming up in your life, and give you that consciousness to always take shelter of the Lord by chanting His names. And please do not give up Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Let's chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra once for Mataji's well-being. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare Ram, Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Ram
Ram
Ram,
Ram,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Probably there are a few questions in the chat box.
So,
Can we?
we can take it up. Maybe next time it's already 9:45. People are waiting to leave.
Sure. Let's once again thank His Grace Vedanta Chaitanya Prabhuji for taking out time out of his busy schedule and delivering such a wonderful class. Let's chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra once and thank Vedanta Chaitanya Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you so much. I hope you all enjoyed and get benefited by today's session, and we look forward to see you tomorrow and in coming sessions also. There are certain announcements that we have for you. How many of you have a copy of Bhagavad Gita with them? Those who have, raise hands. And those who would want to have a copy, good enough. Most of us have. And those who do not have a copy and they would want to have a copy delivered right at their doorstep, now please, they raise your hand. First, all of us, please unmute. Please lower down your hands, electronic hands, so that we can ask now the devotees who do not have their personal copy and they want one to be delivered right at their doorstep. We see Ananya Mataji, Swarnima Mataji do not have a copy. We will get the copy delivered at your doorstep. I would request you to please make a note of this number that you can see on your screen. These are the numbers of His Grace Vedanta Chaitanya Prabhuji and His Grace Asim Govinda Prabhuji. Kindly make a note of these two numbers. Number of His Grace Vedanta Chaitanya, His Grace Kamakijega, Vishudi Prabhuji is 9880-122-411, and number of His Grace Asim Govind Das Prabhuji is 7827599067. And drop them a WhatsApp message, and we will get a copy of Bhagavad Gita delivered right at your doorstep. So with this, we have come to an end of today's session. As Prabhuji has pointed out, that coming sessions we will understand a lot many intricate and important aspects, the questions that we struggle to find an answer of in our day-to-day life, as in what is God, what is the concept of God, what is soul, what is Ishvara, what is Parameshwara, and so on and so forth. So I request you all to please join further sessions, upcoming sessions also, and stay connected. With that, I thank you all on behalf of the entire team of ISKCON Noida for taking out this time and giving us your association. Also, I seek your merciful forgiveness for all the shortcomings and lapses in my part to host you. I am not qualified for this. I seek your mercy. With this, let's chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra once again, and let's pray for each other's well-being, each other's spiritual growth and progress, and close today's session. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.